Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. I hope you're having a great day and you got blue skies where you are, because I don't really have any here, but that's okay. The phone number is 877-973-7425. I want to go on and play this. Not really what I want to talk about this half hour. I want to talk about the Boy Scouts. There's a story there, but I got to play this for you. If you haven't heard this, Kristi Noem has finally canceled all of her media appearances. She bailed on Greg Gutfeld last night. Now she's bailed on CNN Today, and it came after the Stuart Varney interview.
Workers, and it's just been incredible to see the amount of feedback and people that are moving to our state to take opportunity of those jobs and to live like we do in South Dakota.
Do you still think that you are in line to be Trump's vice president?
No, it's up to Donald Trump. He's the only person who will decide this. He's the only person who will decide. And I do speak to him.
May I ask what he said to you about being vice president?
I never tell anybody my personal conversations with
Did the dog story
President
come up
Trump.
in your conversation with
I talk to President Trump all the time.
About the dog?
About a lot of things. And right now, I tell you what, he is being persecuted in a political witch hunt in this court case. So I'm proud of him about how tough he is and how well he is doing.
Did you bring up
the dog?
With
Yes, enough,
Trump?
Stuart.
With Trump. Did you
this
bring up the
interview
dog
is
with Trump?
ridiculous, what you are doing right now. So you need to stop. It is.
Okay.
It is.
We'll
Let's
stop.
talk about some real topics that Americans care about.
She cuts the interview. She's done now. She's done with media interviews. I hope she's done with politics. Oh, my gosh. I think her staff, they finally had enough and decided, you know what, just let her go all in. Let her go all in. It's like the parents who catch their kids smoking cigarettes, and so they make them smoke the whole pack, and they never smoke again. Her staff is like, you know what, we're done. We're done. Just let her go all in. Let her tell all the stories that aren't true that we protected her from, that she insists on telling. Let her go all in. Oh, she did. Okay, let's move on from Kristi Noem, as Donald Trump has. When I was a kid, I was a scout. My dad was actually a fundraiser for the Boy Scouts of America. In fact, I've got his Order of the Arrow chair in my office. And he was a prolific fundraiser for the Boy Scouts back in the day. Loved the Scouts. I loved being the Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts. And it was a great institution. It came out of Europe into the United States, and it took off. And the Boy Scouts of America partnered with a lot of churches in the country, Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, and then the Mormon church really embraced Scouts. And it was a way for boys to be with other boys in a wholesome environment where they would learn the skills of what it took to be a man. And the Boy Scouts of America are no more. They have made a series of changes over time and have collapsed now and will become known as Scouting America. Now, there's a difference between the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts, a significant difference. The Girl Scouts are going to survive this. You know, the Boy Scouts decided to open their doors to girls. The Girl Scouts were not happy about it. They're a completely separate organization. And the Boy Scouts now have 176,234 girls among its members. The numbers are striking. In 2018, 2 million boys were Boy Scouts. Within 2 years, so in 2018, they were at 2 million boys. In 2019, they announced they would add girls to their program. Membership fell to 1.1 million. Almost cut in half. As of 2022, membership hovers right at about 1 million. That includes the 176,000 girls. So the number of boys and Boy Scouts went from 2 million to less than 1 million over a 3-year period, and they've now added girls. The Girl Scouts are going to survive. You know why the Girl Scouts are going to survive? The Girl Scouts will survive because the Girl Scouts are actually drug dealers. And drug dealers will always find a way to survive because the drug dealers' customers are the most loyal customers on the planet. And the drugs that the Girl Scouts sell are some of the most potent drugs in American society. They're called cookies. And they sell unbelievable supplies of cookies. The Girl Scouts are a front for a cookie drug operation, and they will survive. The Boy Scouts sold becoming a man. And now they've decided to scrap that. And it began over time. So first, the Boy Scouts had a religious tradition. But I want you to follow along with me here. What happened is the Boy Scouts at their elite board level started putting the elite on the board. So you had members of the Fortune 500, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies were on the board, and they were godless, secular people who over time gave up on the God-inspired values of the Boy Scouts. And over time decided that, the Boy Scouts, despite their grounding in faith issues, we got to be open to gay scouts and gay scout masters. And churches began to step away. And while all this was happening, they had a sexual abuse scandal of scouts. And the organization began to crumble. The Mormons held on while other churches began to distance themselves. But then, when they openly decided to allow gay scout masters, even the Mormons stepped aside. And the numbers started plunging further. Now, listen, I got to stop and I got to pause and I got a caveat here. This has nothing to do with gay, straight culture war and whether or not gays should be allowed. The fact of the matter, however, is that the Boy Scouts aligned with religious values that were reflected in evangelical churches in America, but the Scouting leadership did not reflect the values of evangelicals in America and decided to align the organization to their more secular values. And as the more secular values of the Scouts began to reflect the CEOs who were on the board of the Scouts, the organization lost the churches. And the churches were where most scouting groups met and organized. And once those churches walked away and took their members with them to the trail kids or whatever they call it in other organizations, the Scouts began to reflect the world, and, well, it collapsed. The drug dealers of the Girl Scouts, they're going to keep selling their drugs, and people are going to keep loving the Girl Scouts because of the drugs. Everybody wants what are little peanut butter cookies from the Girl Scouts. They're so good. You can only get them from the Girl Scouts. The Thin Mint or the peppermint, whatever. You know them. My wife loves them. My wife loves Girl Scout cookies. In fact, she sees the Girl Scout cookies while she's doing all her strongman training, and every time mutters, "Get thee behind me, Satan." She sees her drug dealers coming for her. The Boy Scouts never sold drugs. They sold a moral way of life that they've abandoned, and so the people who were there abandoned them, and it's sad. I never made it Eagle Scout. We moved back from overseas. There wasn't a scouting organization where we lived. I never made Eagle Scout. I was just a Boy Scout. But I loved it. I loved the camping out. I learned to tie knots. I learned to make my car for the Pinewood Derby. Still got my car from the Pinewood Derby. It was a great organization, but it's not that organization anymore. The Boy Scout Handbook, and I remember back in the day when I was a kid in the 80s, you'd go to Sears and Roebuck, and Sears sold all the Boy Scout branded tents and the little pans and the cookout equipment for your camp out. I had my Boy Scout backpack, and I had my little, because you had the tin holder that had the plate, and you had the pan that also served as the bowl, and they wrapped around each other and screwed with a bolt and a wing nut, and you could put it in your backpack, and you could go off into the desert, and you'd have campouts, scouting campouts. And they're dying now. There's a corollary here to what's happening with the United Methodist Church. The UMC has decided to look like the world around them. Scouting and churches always tried very hard to be countercultural. Whatever the zeitgeist of the day is, the Boy Scouts and evangelical churches kind of pushed back against it. And it gave people something. They don't look like everybody else. And that's always kind of been a hallmark of both Christianity and the Boy Scouts, is they don't really operate like everybody else. There's something unique, and the people who are there, they tend to have great character. They tend to have some sort of happiness that I don't have. I think I want to go, or I want my kid to have this. When you start looking like the culture around you, the things of the world hate the things of God. Well, when you start looking like the things of the world, guess where you head? That's going to happen with the United Methodist Church. You already see it happening. I thought it was very funny. It was the African pastors of the UMC who denounced this move to embrace gay marriage in the last week or so, and it was the white, highly educated Americans who are like, you rubes from Africa don't know what you're talking about. Shut up. That denomination will go the way of the PCUSA, the Episcopal Church, and all the other dying mainline congregations of America now. The Scouts have made their choice. It's sad to see. But it's also the reality. When you try to be relevant to the world, you cease being relevant. That's one of the great paradoxes of modernity, is when you try to be relevant to the world, you wind up not being relevant to the world. You're just like everybody else. You're just like everybody else. When you try to set yourself apart from the world, you become relevant to the world. This is from Ellie Gardy at The Spectator, a female. While Boy Scouts of America's disavowal of its central mission and removal of its central attraction, a boys-only environment, has been the main reason for its utter collapse, its embrace of wokeness has also contributed. The organization centers its embrace of diversity, equity, and inclusion. For example, the first requirement a scout must complete in order to earn the Boy Scouts Citizenship in Society badge is that he or she must research the terms identity, diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion. The organization has a chief diversity officer who is also a vice president, Lisa Schuchart, as well as a DEI manager, Vera Henderson. In 2017, ahead of its decision to admit girls, the Boy Scouts allowed girls who identify as boys to join the organization. The organization has also faced scandal and bankruptcy owing to sexual abuse. The organization was hit particularly hard when the Mormons announced they would break off their relationship. Mormons previously constituted nearly 500,000 of the Boy Scouts members. As the Boy Scouts have declined, Christian-specific scouting groups have grown in number. Trail Life USA, which only includes boys and describes itself as Christ-centered, has experienced an explosion of its membership. The Boy Scouts have come a long way from a group for boys to go camping with their dads and learn how to build fires and tie knots. Last year, when the Washington Post dispatched Anne Brannigan to cover the organization's National Jamboree. She reported, quote, "The third day of the Jamboree featured a Muslim religious service, an LGBTQ plus affinity tent offering scouts a safe and supportive space, and disabled scoutmasters led activities promoting mental health, diversity, and inclusion. A bronze statue was dedicated to the first class of female Eagle Scouts, and a little more than 1 in 5 scouts at the Jamboree were girls. Left abandoned? American boys who could have used an organization like the Boy Scouts to help them build character. Instead, at least they will have Trail Life USA, which if you're interested in scouting, Trail Life USA is the way for your family to go."
This episode is brought to you by Opill, the first over-the-counter daily birth control pill available in the U.S. Opill is FDA approved, full prescription strength, and estrogen-free. Plus, there's no prescription needed. Finally, the days of needing a prescription for birth control are over. Opill is available online and at most major retailers. Take control of your health and reproductive journey with Opill. Birth control in your control. Use code BIRTHCONTROL for 25% off your first month of Opill at Opill.com.
Welcome. Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Don't forget, you can text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777 to follow along with me around the internet and get the podcast and all. Let me go to Frank here on the phone. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Howdy, Eric. This is Frank. I just wanted to call and tell you that I think you've got it wrong about Scouts. I've got 2 girls, and my oldest was in Girl Scouts, and she wasn't learning anything about virtue. She was just learning to sell cookies and become a campus
drug
activist.
dealer. They were teaching her how to be a drug dealer, Frank.
Yeah, and a fifth-wave feminist campus activist.
Yeah, okay. So let me pause you here and say my sister pulled my nieces out of Girl Scouts when the Scoutmaster, who was a lesbian, decided that they were not going to have a Mother's Day celebration as had been planned. They were going to have an All Parents Day celebration. My sister's like, "I'm done." Yes, institution has some serious problems. So anyway, I didn't mean to hijack your point.
But moving to BSA, they've learned like self-reliance. They've learned faith. They've learned reverence. They've learned all sorts of actual virtue. And I tell you, I'd rather have my girls in what was formerly BSA, but I guess is moving to scouting. But I'd rather have them there than learning what they're learning in Girl Scouts.
I don't disagree with you at all on that point. My issue is the Boy Scouts were the Boy Scouts, not the co-ed Scouts. And they've moved, and it would be great to have an organization where boys and girls can learn that stuff and should in or out of church. Yeah, absolutely. And frankly, I mean, my daughter would prefer something like the Boy Scouts to the Girl Scouts because she'd want to learn how to build a campfire and tie knots and stuff like that as well, instead of the stuff that the Girl Scouts do. She doesn't need her knitting badge. She wants to learn knife skills. But boys also, I think there are plenty of safe spaces in the country, for lack of a better term, for girls, and there really aren't organizations out there for boys. And when there are organizations that are distinctly for boys, like the Boy Scouts, they're put upon by society until they succumb, break down, and give up the ghost, and then they conform to the world. So you got your girls into the Boy Scouts at the right time, and that's going to be downhill from there when it comes to the Scouts afterwards. I don't disagree with why you want them there. I really don't, but I think the Boy Scouts as Boy Scouts were for boys, and that's a problem. Now, I got to tell you guys about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. I'm glad they are back. I use my Eden Pure Thunderstorm regularly. It is an air purifier, but it eliminates odor from the air. And you can get 3 of them and save $200. Get them for less than $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. Use the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3. So the Thunderstorm, you get one for upstairs, downstairs, your basement, or your RV, or your travel bag, wherever you need it, and it eliminates odor. So fish odors, frying odors, cooking odors, musty odors, litter box odors, pet odors, cigar odors, smoke odors, musty odor, wipes them out. You can plug it up with a USB cord in your car, or you can plug it directly into the wall. You can hold it in your hand. I literally keep one of these in my travel bag. If I have a hotel room or rental car that someone has smoked in, it wipes out those odors. Don't have to worry about it. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3. You save $200. You get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms, and they just work. They pack a wallop, and you never have to replace the filter because they are filterless. They use electrostatic plates. They're fantastic. EdenPureDeals.com, discount code ERIC3.
Blinds.com Cyber Monday Last Chance is happening now. Don't miss out on up to 45% off site-wide. A Blinds.com design expert can help you make the perfect selection on your schedule. We can handle everything from measure to your whole home installed for one low cost. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Save up to 45% site-wide, plus a free professional measure right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Greetings, conversationalists. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. I want to assure you all, I did not come into work today and sit down behind the microphone and say, what topic could I talk about to really make people mad that wasn't electric vehicles? I promise. Didn't intend to do that, but good Lord, the scouting issue fires people up. And I honestly, I think it should. And I'll take these phone calls here in just a second. There are not a lot of institutions where boys can be boys and learn good character anymore. And honestly, an organization, in all frankness, and I will try not to be crass with this, but in all frankness, while I understand the desire of someone like my last caller to the Girl Scouts kind of sucked for his daughters, they wanted something more, and the Boy Scouts was the right place. I don't know that an organization that went bankrupt over sexual assault allegations of Scoutmasters against Scouts is the place where you put boys and girls in the woods at night in tents and have a co-ed camp out. I don't know that that's a good thing to do. Boys are going to be boys, and I think they need a place with good men my Scoutmaster was a Vietnam War vet. And he had a wood shop in his garage, and we learned how to make wooden ducks, and I learned how to use the saws, and it was fun. I had a fun time, and there aren't really any places left where boys can be boys and also learn virtue and good character in the process with good guys who have stepped up to volunteer and be their Scoutmasters, one of their dads. And we live in a world where there aren't a lot of fathers, and you think we would want to prop up the institutions that can serve in the role as fathers to boys whose fathers are nowhere to be found, and yet they can go into an institution and become a Scout and learn loyalty, respect, and honor. And that's kind of out the window. Now, back to the phones we go, 877-973-7425. John, you're up next. Welcome from Jacksonville, Florida.
First-time caller. I'm a little nervous, but I just wanted to give you some of my background. I was a Mormon. My mother's still a devout Mormon, and I grew up in the scouting. I just wanted to recite the oath for you. I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to help other people at all times. To keep myself mentally strong, physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. So stay straight so far from that. And then the 12 points, a Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
Yep.
This breaks my heart, and I'm so sad.
It has been a long time, John, since I recited the scouting oath. Yeah. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Yes. And morally straight and my duty to God, these moral virtues that you should want young men to learn in a setting surrounded by other men, and out the window. It's just, listen, if you want to have an organization that brings in girls to do these things, I think that's totally fine. I totally get it. My sister's experience with my nieces and all, but that's not the Boy Scouts. Now it's going to be the scouting of America, because the Boy Scouts has collapsed under wokeness, and it really is. It's progressive values infiltrated it and decided that whole duty to God stuff and morally straight stuff is nonsense and just collapsing an institution. Dave, you're up next. Welcome to the show, Dave. How are you? Dave? Dave? Well, I don't.
There
you are, leader. Dave. Dave, you broke up there for a minute. I couldn't hear you. That. Welcome. That's all right. What's going on?
Yeah, so I was a Boy Scout leader for 12 years. I agree with you wholeheartedly. A couple things. The Boy Scouts, I don't know if they still do, but they got most of their money from the United Way. And they initially bucked or rejected the idea of bringing homosexuality into the Boy Scouts. And they lost the majority of their money. So then they gave into it, I think, a year or two later. The other thing I wanted to point out was that you're absolutely right. When you did not want to put girls and guys together, their hormones are raging. You're out in the woods, you're camping. That's just that'd be a nightmare for a leader to have to take control of that. Another thing I wanted to point out: Bill Gates, Secretary of Defense under Bush. I read an article years ago. He was asked, "What do you attribute to your success as a leader?" And he gave three things. He said, "My family, my faith in God, and Boy Scouts." There's been several. I think Gerald Ford was also a Boy Scout.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right that Boy Scouts develops young men, but it also develops leadership. And I didn't realize that those numbers had gone down that much. I'm not involved in the Boy Scouts anymore. My son's a Eagle Scout. He graduated from UGA Athens. He's got a degree in finance, and he attributes a lot of that to his days in Boy Scouts. So I'll just leave it at that. Thanks
yeah,
for the call.
Listen, Dave, I appreciate it. And I got a text from a friend of mine said he's an Eagle Scout, and his son has never darkened the door of the scouting program. And it really is just a sad thing to see. It's the collapse of an institution. And look, I'm looking at their website right now, and they've got an entire section on DEI. You can do volunteer DEI training with the Scouts now. You can do a new citizenship and society badge, which has the scouting hand taking the oath with the folded thumb and the world inside of it with red, white, and blue stripes. Different perspectives and experiences to promote good citizenship in society. I'm interested. What are the merit badge requirements? Instructions for Scouts. Let's see here. Where are your requirements? Before beginning work on requirements for the merit badge, research the following terms and then explain to your merit badge counselor how you believe they reflect on the scouting oath: identities, diversity, equity, equality, inclusion, discrimination, ethical leadership, upstander. Document and discuss with your counselor what leadership means to you. Research and share with your counselor an individual you feel has demonstrated positive leadership while making an ethical decision. Consider ethical decision-making. Think about a time you faced an ethical decision. Discuss the situation. Share what you would do differently. List 3 examples of ethical decisions you might face. Repeat the Scout oath and Scout law for your counselor. Choose 2 of the 3 following scenarios and discuss what you could do as a Scout to demonstrate leadership. One is you accidentally spill foods on another camper. The camper gets spilled on says something offensive to people with disabilities. What would you do? Second scenario, your friend confides in you that some students in school are making insulting comments about one of their identities and that those same students created a fake social media account to impersonate your friend. What would you do? Third scenario, a new student in your class was born in another country. Your friends make rude comments to the student about their speech or clothes and tell the student to go back home where you came from. Document and discuss with your counselor ideas on what you personally can do to create a welcoming environment in your scouting unit. This is what you get a badge for? Holy moly. With your parents' approval, connect with another scout or youth your own age who has an identity different from you, a trait, belief, or characteristic different from you. Wow. Good gracious. All right. Give 3 examples of how limiting diversity can be harmful. My goodness. Okay. Christian calling from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Welcome. How are you?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I'm great. What's going on?
Man, I was an Eagle Scout. I'm 30 years old, and I got a 10-year-old and 9-year-old sons, and of course wanted, to put them into Scouts and do with them what I went through growing up. And yeah, man, that's just terrifying to even think about nowadays.
Yeah, it really is. Okay. Wait a second, Christian. I'm in my head. I'm doing the numbers. So you're 30, and you've got a 9-year-old.
Yeah, I had them when I was 17. I started early.
My gosh, yes. Okay, so now the call screener that you just spoke to, I want you to put this in perspective. He started late, so he's going to be gray-haired and decrepit at his kid's high school graduation, and you're still going to be able to hang out with the kids after graduation. So, between the two of you,
that's the plan. By the time they're 18 and they're moving out, I'll just be hitting 40. It'll be nice.
I actually hate you right now. So now, have you considered like trail life or something for your kids?
That's actually what the screener was just telling me about. I'm going to have to look in and see if we have that around here because, yeah, that'd be ideal. I mean, short of that, I don't know what else to do besides coach their soccer team.
Yeah, look, I will tell you that, in fact, I'm looking right now, and, yeah, they have a number of chapters in the Tulsa area. By the way, Charlie says he hates you too, but he's going to be like the really old guy. I mean, I'm at least 48 with my kid graduating high school. He's going to be like 79.
Yeah, goodness gracious.
So yeah, if you get on the traillifeusa.com website, they've got a number of troops around Tulsa, in and around Tulsa and Broken Arrow in that area, Locust Grove, Owasso in that area. And I will tell you, everyone, I've never been a part of it, but everyone I know says it is like the Boy Scouts were in the 80s and 90s because it was founded by Scouts who got disgusted with the way the BSA was going. And so a lot of it is eerily familiar, but it's much more faith-based as well. So a lot of churches have taken it up.
I still can't believe, you know what they did to the Pinewood Derby?
What did they do?
Well, so instead of building a Pinewood Derby car with your dad, now you take a already shaped piece of wood and they put a propeller on the end of it and they put it on a string and they race the pieces of wood with propellers.
No, seriously?
Dude, I was like, what on earth is this? This is no, we're not doing that.
Oh my gosh.
I still have all my Pinewood Derby cars. Like
I've got
that's
mine.
So crazy to me.
Wow, gosh. Okay. Well, all right. Now the guy Charlie and I both hate. I'll man, I got to tell you, honestly, I'm doing all this stuff for my kid for graduation, and I'm thinking, I'm glad that I'm at my age, and I wish I was a little younger. You're going to be like 40 years old when your kid graduates from high school. That's going to actually be, you'll have like a longer runway to have cool memories with your kids. So good for you.
Oh yeah, and I'll still be young enough to ride a motorcycle and stuff, and. Yeah, it works out okay, and I got lucky. I'm still with them, their mom after all these years, and most people that start as early as I did don't last that. So,
good for you, man. Good for you. All right, man. Good to hear from you, Christian. Yeah, my gosh. Charlie, by the way, Christian, if you're still, Charlie says he's going to be 60 when his youngest kid graduates high school. Wow. Charlie, I'll be 51. Oh, gosh. All right. I got to move on. I got to tell you all about Hillsdale College. By the way, speaking of the Scouts, as we used to know them and the values, Hillsdale College is an institution that prioritizes those great values that we grew up with. It's a great conservative institution of learning in Michigan, and you can get a sense of who they are by getting Imprimis completely for free in your mailbox. All you do is go to ericforhillsdale.com, ERICK. ericforhillsdale.com. You can get Imprimis without ever paying a penny. And you get the leading, bleeding edge thoughts of the conservative movement from Chris Rufo, from Heather McDonald, from Victor Davis Hanson, from Larry Arnn, the president of Hillsdale, and from a lot of other people, whether it's the transcripts of speeches given on campus or their submitted thoughts that Hillsdale puts in Imprimis. It comes to your mailbox. You will never pay a penny for it. I've been getting it since I was in law school. I've never paid a penny for Imprimis. ericforhillsdale.com, ERICK. Get on the mailing list with Hillsdale, by the way. Just learn about the organization and the institution. It's such a great gift education in this country as so many schools go off the rails. Hillsdale's still there, still going strong for all these years. Eric for Hillsdale.com. Get Imprimus completely for free as part of Hillsdale's educational mission. Well, that's weird. All of my sound is suddenly going through my computer instead of to you. Let's try this again, shall we? Hello there. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Lewis, you're going to round out the show today. Welcome.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. I'm sitting here waiting on my son. My son he has Asperger's. And when he was little, we got him in Boy Scouts, and it did for him, it was a really social thing. And we went through, he went through the time where they switched, this recent stuff that's going on. But here locally, the way that they have run it here is a little different, I think, because yes, they have girls, but they have a separate troop for the girls. And when they go on campouts, they don't camp in the same campground. But they do still have some of the same main basic things for the Boy Scouts. But I'm thinking maybe down the road, like you're saying, it's probably gonna degrade more. But I think some of it too has to do with your local leadership as well. And the troop that we have here in Rome has been around since the 30s, and so there's still a lot of grassroots people involved in it. So I don't know if down the road when things change that it's going to make it more. But it was a very good program for. Of course, my son's not in it now because school is just too much. He's 11th grade now, and he's taking college courses and everything. But it was just something I just thought, it kind of looks like it's going to go that way. But I still think that there's still control in the local area in some aspects that they can do that.
Yeah, I do think local control does matter. And so there are still some troops out there that can maintain themselves. But, institutionally over time, we have seen this with every institution out there, whether it's in church communities or otherwise, that as the leadership becomes more and more progressive, they over time force that progressivism down the food chain more and more to the local entities. Take, for example, the Methodist Church now that's purged a lot of conservative pastors. We've seen that here where I am in Georgia in order to make way for this theological change they made last week on gay marriage and having gay pastors. They first the church split. Conservatives thought they could maintain it. They were pushed out the door. And then some local pastors, as churches wanted to split, were reassigned. And it's the leadership forces through change over time. So your organization may for another 15 years or so be solid, but as the head goes, the rest of the body is going to go, which is unfortunate. It's sad to see. In any event, by the way, let's see here. I got an email from Michael, Trail Life USA. Michael is talking about the groups based in Oklahoma. If you go to Trail Life USA, it's the fastest growing scouting organization in the country. And if you go to Trail Life USA, they have chapters in every single state in the nation. They are what the Boy Scouts were in the 80s and 90s. And they are rapidly growing on the Boy Scouts. They literally are around the country. I'm not involved with them. This isn't an endorsement. But I know a ton of people who moved their sons to Trail Life and say it is the Scouts without the problems of the Boy Scouts. And it is the home. And if you're in Oklahoma, they got them all scattered in Georgia as well, where I am. They've got a local chapter in my community, and they're growing all over the place. And so they tend to meet in churches as the Scouts used to do. TrailLifeUSA.com is the website. If you're looking for an alternative to the Boy Scouts, that is the best alternative out there. A great organization by all accounts.